Earlier this year, a group of students climbed to the top of the Shard in London, which is incidentally the tallest building in Europe. What's perhaps more impressive is that they did this at night, all whilst evading security and without being discovered. The group were urban explorers, that is people that enter abandoned buildings to take photographs. We found a forum used by thousands of these people. What makes this hobby so popular? We decided to find out more. So why are so many of these buildings left abandoned for urban explorers to access? We went to see Newcastle City Council to see what their thoughts are and see why so many of these buildings are left derelict.
I'm Colin White and my role is really to look at regeneration of poor private sector housing neighbourhoods in the city. I think there's quite prominent ones that have been that are empty. I deal a majority with the domestic properties, so we do have quite a few empties and long-term empties that are derelict in the city. And so we have a wide range of reasons why they're empty, and they range from the individual hasn't got the money to, or the company doesn't have the money to actually do the renovation before to the property, had a bad experience, tenant has left and trashed the place and basically don't want to get back into managing that property. And it can be, or there's a death in the family, inherited the property, don't know what to do with it. It's each individual property has a story behind it normally, and then you also have people who are just not wanting to do anything with the property, and you can actually find a valid reason behind it. And one of the roles of the team that I work with is trying to find out exactly what that reason is, and then trying to work with the person to bring them back into use. So it's a real combination from economic through to social issues within each property. Yeah, older buildings are more expensive to renovate, and in today's society they were built for a different reason. So I mean that is through residential and commercial buildings where people are wanting larger open plan offices, central air conditioned, there's IT issues and all that type of thing. So those larger older buildings are much more difficult and more expensive to renovate to today's uses. I'd be very wary about going into an abandoned building. I mean, from our point of view, from a council, if we had to enter into abandoned building, we would do safety checks, we'll take protective clothing. Again, dealing with domestic properties, we go into buildings where pigeons have been in, and pigeons droppings are very, toxic, and we have to wear very protective clothing. So I think there is a lot of risks of going into an empty property if you've not got the right gear. You haven't got permission, so I certainly wouldn't recommend anybody to do it. And recognising buildings of quality and trying to protect them, and if urban exploring helps in that, then I'm in support of it that way. If they're raising awareness of a property and the quality of it, then I think that's a good thing, as long as it's done safely, legally. Then it's a good thing. And sending photos into the relevant organisations of these properties, again, raises awareness. So I would support it in that way, as long as it's done legally.
After having spoke to Colin, we decided to come to Sunderland to see if there's any abandoned buildings here. And we found this, the Crowtrees Leisure Centre. Part of this building stood derelict for over 12 years. Unfortunately, we couldn't get access to film, so we decided to meet with Kevin, a local urban explorer, to find out more about what he does and to see him in action.
Basically on my travels, just like taking a mental note of places that have closed down, and then thinking about why they've closed down and who was there last. And it's just something that's fascinated me. The most interesting place I've been is probably West Park Asylum, which was this mental asylum that closed down in the early 90s, and obviously it was abandoned for years. It was pretty amazing to walk around and see all the beds and everything. It was a bit weird. We went at like 5 in the morning, like for sunrise in the summer, and that was really weird. The lighting was really surreal, and it was really quiet and desolate. Well, basically, I guess I first sort of got interested just from walking past abandoned places and noticing them, and thought, well, it's quite interesting how they're abandoned, but they're there and no one's in them, and just thought it'd be really interesting to find out what is in them and what has been left behind from people in the past. And just thought that was quite interesting, and started to go from there, and never meant to leave any damage or anything, just literally go in and look around. The first picture was a place called Portsdale, Maine, which is in Portsmouth in Hampshire, and it was an ex-MOD building, and it was a MOD property until the early 2000s when it was abandoned and just left on the hill ever since. And yeah, it was really interesting in there. There was lots of stuff still in there, like a cinema room, lots of stuff, but unfortunately it's been knocked down now, as with most other buildings that were around in the 2000s. The second picture I took as an abandoned power station that was near where I live got demolished. It was quite an important place. It was basically the skyline everyone remembered for many years, like since the 60s when the cooling towers were put there, and it was abandoned for a good 15 years, but I managed to get in there a few times with some friends and had a look around, and it was really good. But yeah, they've decided to go for green energy and put solar panels in place of the cooling towers, and they demolished it, which is the moment in which I took this picture as they blew it up with explosives. Basically, I'd like to see people who call themselves urban explorers to treat the places with a bit more respect and not damage them in any way or adjust things in any way, because it ruins the fun a bit, and it's also very disrespectful because they are obviously owned by someone and no one would like their stuff destroyed. So it's just common sense to just go in, take a look around, maybe take some photos, just generally get an insight into what the place is, what it was, just find out about the place, and yeah, it's just pretty interesting. I'm not sure how it's going to go really.
I don't know.
I hear in America there's some pretty amazing asylums, like on a much larger scale than the ones we have over here, and I think they would be very interesting to explore.
So we've identified that there are numerous buildings across the northeast that have been left abandoned. It's good to know that there is still life being breathed into these buildings through urban exploration, and that there are people out there that will still appreciate their beauty.